and we thought we didn't want to go back and just go back to work. We had vacation time left. So we packed up the scaffolding in the dump truck and thought we'd go out to Montana and get a set of teepee poles, check on a bow that I had being made, and just check out Yellowstone Park. Seeing as how we were so close in Michigan.
Yeah, right.
And that's about the way my geography works. 4 days later...
Yeah, I was just thinking, you're talking about this like it's Wisconsin. You zip in, you zip out.
Well, Route 90 wasn't even done. It was still a two-lane road.
Oh, my gosh.
And when we got here, the dump truck broke, and we had that at the dealer for a couple of weeks waiting for parts. Fortunately, I found somebody else here from Cleveland who was looking to have a foundation put underneath a house. So I bought a hammer, trowel, and level and did that for him, and he paid me, and I got the truck out of hock, and everything was good. He helped us get the teepee poles and took us fishing a lot, and we had a good time. And well, speaking of fishing, Ohio at that time, the lake was dead, the rivers were dead and flammable.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't catch a fish to save you, and if you did, it was cancerous on one side and had a lamprey hole in the other.
Yeah.
There were kids out here just scooping fish out of irrigation ditches with their hands into the grass, and I thought, you know what? This is better than Cleveland.
Yeah. Look, northwestern Michigan was like that. We used to scoop them right out of the irrigation, coho salmon, right out of the irrigation ditches and take them home,
And my wife is Norwegian. Her family immigrated from Kristiansand, Norway, and
okay.
She fell in love with the place because she says it looks like Norway.
Okay.
So between the two of us, we thought this would be the place to raise a family.
Makes sense. So, from what I understand, and judging from what I see from you on Facebook and our conversations, over the years and whatnot, you went from the wine cellar below the teepee and now the meadery to you're building a castle in the woods, aren't you?
Yes. We went from the teepee to a wooden house. The wooden house is no more, and when we closed our construction business, which was a masonry construction business, in 2007, we had this yard full of 30 years worth of masonry materials: brick, block, stone, tile.
Oh, awesome.
That's
pallets
so cool.
And pallets and pallets. And so right next to it in the woods there, and the house is at about 5,600 feet.
Oh, gosh, you guys are way up
We
there.
just put a foundation into the mountainside right next to the materials.
Oh.
They're not quite used up yet, but when they're gone, then the house is done.
That is a perfect excuse to make a castle. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I've been watching you build the castle through Facebook for years now, and going, this is really cool, and wondering, but not really thinking it was, necessarily, why ask? How'd you ever afford a castle? But that is like she said, that's just the best possible way to build a castle.
I have not spent very much on it yet.
Yeah, yet. There's that yet there, That's so funny.
We're buying things like paint and things now, but the rest of it was all left over from the construction business.
Yeah, I've worked in construction. I know how stuff accumulates.
It's completely off the grid. I developed a spring by hand, and so we have that. And
oh, wow.
We bought ourselves a solar panel every year for like 8 or 10 years, and so we have a nice array, and
nice.
It's well powered, and
so not all the preppers
it's not suffering at all.
Not all the preppers are gone from that part of Montana, it sounds like.
And since my job overseas involved developing a sawmill and everything that went with it, I have a small one, and other than the masonry materials, all the wood comes from the property itself.
Nice.
That's so cool.
So what's the...
And it's probably one of the best forms of therapy I have. I have several, but that's the good one.
Yeah, I can see where it would be. That's a labor of love there. And I know, and AJ, you said, I've talked to Ken before, and he's like, well, gotta go. Castle's calling me, and there's no cell phone out there, thank God. And he'll get he'll take off.
I know. I made myself too I love the wine business. I love making mead. I promised myself two things when I was young. I would always work outside, and I would never live in town. I'm living in town, and I'm sometimes inside of this building for a week at a time.
Well, you do have to run the meadery.
Well, sometimes life doesn't always turn out exactly the way you wanted it to.
Well, the castle helps on the weekends.
So when do you guys think you'll be...
Yeah, I can totally hear that.
Do you have a move-in, time frame that you're thinking of?
Well, the grandkids are getting between 3, 4, 5-ish. Maybe a couple of more years by the time they're ready to really appreciate the place.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have it ready for them.
Bedroom in the tower.
I'm going to have a zip line coming to the top of the tower from up the hill, and a big plastic tube slide going down to the ground, and other kid-like amenities.
Oh, I want to come visit you.
So did you have to get permits for this, or is this in a disorganized township where you just build what you want and nobody says anything?
The building permits here are septic approvals.
Okay.
And the rest of it is, gosh, if you can't spot it from the air. I'm sure the building is. I'm sure the county just heard that.
Yeah, they're like, "Where's he live exactly?" Yeah, I think I'll go see him tomorrow. So, you've had the meadery open for several years now, and
this is our 16th year.
Is it 16? So, oh my God, the time, we're getting old, Ken. They just go by so fast anymore. Every time somebody tells me that, I'm like, no, really?
I know. I can't believe. It's been 20 years since I returned from that job overseas.
Yeah.
Seems like yesterday.
I know. I'm fixing to become a grandparent, so it's like, whoa, wait, what? I mean, not that I think it's the most amazing thing ever, and I'm just totally stoked to become a granny, but at the same time, it's like, wait a minute. Wasn't she just in elementary school 3 days ago?
Wasn't she just in diapers?
I know. I could still feel how she felt in my arms, and she's married and having one of her own. It's like, oh my God. So yeah. So okay, you got started. You got a bucket of honey. So what made you decide to turn that in? Well, obviously you're already a winemaker, but how'd you end up turning that into mead? Where'd you go, and how'd you come up with the original idea?
Well, I always knew what mead was. One of my outlets has always been fantasy. I read The Hobbit in 1968. I think they had a tankard or two of mead along with their Shire Leaf.
One or two, yeah.
In there somewhere.
Yeah.
One of my two favorite movies is The Viking from 1958 with Ernest Borgnine.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one.
Oh, box office hit. You know that beat Ben-Hur at the box office.
I did not know that. That's interesting. And now I've got to go back and watch it again. I haven't seen that movie in decades.
You can get it from Netflix.
Cool. I'll add it to my list when we get off
the show. But anyway, I knew what mead was, and I got a hold of a book by Duncan and Campbell, or Campbell and Duncan, whichever it was.
No, Acton and Duncan? Yeah, I've got
first.
that one.
Atkins, yes.
Yeah.
And those guys crack me up.
Yeah, they do.
And so at the same time, I was looking for something to ferment because it was very frustrating here. I tried to order grapes from California, and they came in lugs all broken and moldy, and it just wasn't pretty. And I was still thinking that wine was mostly grapes. I hadn't made a lot of fruit wines. I don't remember even making any fruit wines before that point. But anyway, I made the mead, following just their basic recipe, and I tweaked it a little. And like it says in the bio on the website, I put the corks in the night before we left for the airport, and we were gone for 4 years. And when we got back, well, a good example is our property is 3/4 of a mile off of the highway, and it's quite an endeavor to clear the snow or to keep it cleared. And the guy that did that for us then would do it twice for one bottle.
Huh. Nice. That's good mead when they'll do that.
And that was what just drove the neighbors crazy. Said, "Oh, you have to go into business."
Had you tried mead before you made some?
Yes, one time. A friend had made some.
That was going to be my next question. Homemade or store-bought?
He made it at home, a gallon at a time. And I don't recall my reaction to it.
So couldn't have been too awesome, or you'd remember. So probably it was like a lot of meads were back in those days. They're all right, maybe.
It couldn't have been horrible.
Yeah, or you'd remember that too.
Yeah, right.
I would remember that before anything else, I think.
Yeah. My first mead was Chaucer's at the Michigan Renaissance Festival. And that was back when it was that syrupy, super sweet, over the top, make your fillings fall out, And I remember thinking, wow, I've never tasted anything like this before, not having a love it or hate it reaction so much as that this is really different reaction, and can I make this stuff? Because I grew up with my dad.
As you alluded to, my uncle, who was a very, very serious home winemaker, and he was a judge at the Indy International for a number of years.
Oh.
His very good friend was Dick Vine, the head of the enology department at Purdue, and the third member of the Three Musketeers was Doug Moorhead at Presque Isle Wineries. And so trips to the vineyard and exploring the wineries and all this other kind of stuff growing up, I had this really cool mentoring thing going on. And I said that to say, what was the last question?
What did you think about the first mead you had?
Oh, I was introduced to a lot of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Indiana winemakers early in life. And, I mentioned to a couple of them that I was going to make mead. And their reaction was like they held up a cross and said, "No, don't make mead. It's horrible. It's like, you're going to the Vikings drank that for crying out loud." And it's like, you snobs. I'm sure that mead can be every bit as complex as any one of your wines, and I'm going to make it and show you.
Oh, so you got stubborn.
Nice.
And it's just that can't stuff, It was the same with our dandelion wine. Now that was, yes, I have made dandelion wine forever, and that's a different story, and it came about the same way. Somebody told me you can't make it good. But anyway, back to the mead, that was the birth of the pure honey mead. And it's a mead made on purpose like a table wine. I even spent a couple of months fine-tuning the recipe with Marianne Groff, who was the head of Vinquery Labs at the time.
Oh, okay.
And if you know anything about her,